Okay, good evening, students. I hope you all had a good break. Or are you all still working too hard? How is the project progress going on? So next week you all have the presentations, right? Are you all ready? Are you all ready? No? Okay, so technically this is the last lecture before your presentation begins next week. Okay, so in a way, last conceptual lecture. Okay, and from next week we are beginning the presentations that you have for the project. Any questions from the previous lecture? I assume it's almost 2 weeks, right? So I hope you all remember a bit of what we covered in lecture 10, right? Any questions? You all have started preparing for your exams, or is it too early? Okay. So no questions means I'll assume that you all are comfortable with what we did in the lecture 10, unless you ask me any difficult question. So what is it that we are going to cover today? What topic? Culture? Okay, so if you all participate and talk about things that you are going to see on the slide and give examples, I promise you we will be able to do it much faster. But if you remain silent and don't speak, then the session will get delayed to full 3 hours. Okay, so whenever you have an opportunity, participate, give illustrations, and then we will keep moving. Okay, fine, done? Great. You all would have seen this slide somewhere. So do participate when it opens. So I think it opens from 14th October. So this is basically about your view about the course and feedback about different aspects. So do figure out some time to participate in the survey once it opens. So last week we covered basically talking about groups and reference groups specifically, the different types of reference groups, and we also talked about different types of word of communication, word of mouth, and some examples relating to word of mouth. For example, crowdsourcing, crowdfunding, social networking, and so on. Reference group and its relevance. Who will explain me what reference groups are, why are they relevant, what are the types of reference group that we studied? Why is it important for marketeers to study and understand reference group? Too many questions, but you can answer whichever one you are comfortable with. What are reference group? Anyone? It's such an easy question that you don't want to answer, right? The types of reference group, if you remember, what are the different types of reference group? Informational, what else? Okay. Value expressive, utilitarian, dissociative, aspirational, formal, informal. Why a reference group important for us? as business manager or as marketeers, why do you want to understand reference groups?
You want to know about your customers? The behavior and the belief.
In what sense? If you understand reference group, how will it help you understand behavior? You'll be able to compare, for example. So if you know that these two consumers belong to one particular type of reference group, and if you have some idea from, say, your market research effort or otherwise as to what one consumer might be liking, consuming, can't you make forecasts and guesses about the second consumer as well, if they belong to the same reference group, right? So same reference group or similar reference group will exhibit similar kind of attitude, behavior, consumption, types, communication preferences, and so on. Therefore, it is important for us to. Now, cultural systems and classification, myths and rituals, and subculture. These are the four broad concept types that we are going to study today. And then we'll also briefly talk about your end exam. Okay, the pattern of the exam, some focus areas, some do's and don'ts, and so on. Okay. Let us understand what is culture. So culture is just sum total of our knowledge, belief, and customs. Okay. And what is enculturation? Knowledge, belief, and customs. So knowledge, you'll get a sense that, okay, knowing something or informing oneself or informing others might happen very quickly, right? Beliefs. So you don't form belief, in very short duration you don't form belief, but still temporarily, if you will see, in a relatively shorter duration of time, beliefs may form, beliefs may change, they may shape and reshape. Customs, even more. So if you see the timeline, so knowledge, short timeline, it can be acquired, shared, and so on, followed by your beliefs, and then probably your customs, and a combination of all of these is culture. So culture, two things you understand. One, it is complex. It's complex mix of some things that are factual, that are knowledge, something which have been developed over a period of time, beliefs, values, norms, and so on. And culture overall, if you have to change, there are several points at which you will have to act. For example, you will have to change the knowledge type of a particular group. What they believe in, you will have to change. The customs, you will have to alter. Then only probably the culture of a place or group will change, right? So therefore, culture is more kind of a complex, substantial issue which do not alter every now and then. Fine? Now, what is enculturation? Look at the description and then tell me if you have some examples as to. So culture is so much ingrained many a times, and we are so, in a way you will say, submerged in the cultural settings, that it becomes very subconscious or unconscious part of our lives. We don't really realize it very, very keenly, or do not observe it very keenly. So some of the things, if you will step back and ask yourself, are cultural beliefs or the culture that I come from, how was it shaped? How was it formed? So enculturation basically is how you have learned the different aspect or element and imbibed the different aspects and element of your culture. How did it happen? So if you think I have a cultural belief or I belong to a particular culture, how do you think you acquired that? Through parents. What else? And how? Through parents, in what way?
If you don't do it, they'll beat you.
Sorry?
They'll force you to follow what's right.
Okay, they force you to do something and avoid a few things. Observation, you just, as a child, you grew seeing them, what they are doing, what they are avoiding, right? At times they taught you, at the times they forced to do something and avoid a few other things. What else? So observation, conscious learning and teaching. What else? Sorry? How did you acquire those beliefs? How did you acquire those beliefs? From whom? One is parents. From who else? Teachers. Who else? Friends, groups, neighborhood, right? So observation, conscious learning, teaching, unconscious following a particular pattern. Anything else? Certain regulations which might have been imposed from outside. Rules, norms, what is acceptable, what is not, right? That is enculturation. How you learned the traditional content of your, say, native culture. What is acculturation then? Okay, forget about the slide. First one, assimilation. So basically you came to, so acculturation basically means you are coming to a new place, a new culture, and then a few things are happening. Enculturation is basically about your own culture, say a given locus or a given place where you learnt a few things, say your native country, whatever, whether it is Australia or some other country, and what you imbibed or acquired there, right? Acculturation is when you came to a different location, different city, different country, right? And then four things might happen. One is you will assimilate what is going on in this new location. You will become part of that, and you will start acquiring what is going on there. Maintain basically is some food habits or some beliefs you retain and some you acquire, both, right? Resist, there are something in this country or in this culture which you resist, you don't want to acquire, don't want to imbibe, don't want to follow. And segregate, so you form your own cohort, group, neighborhood, where more number of people of your type stay. So segregation, within the same group, different, though you are in a different country, still you will see some, so it's very evident in, say, something like US, where you will find neighborhood which is predominantly, say, from China or from India or from Africa. So those neighborhoods have developed around those particular country or location sites, right? So they might be doing the first three also, but they have formed a neighborhood, segregated themselves, where they more strongly follow what they want to follow. Even the stores will be more typical of that neighborhood, of that community, that culture, right? Now, give me examples. So many of you are international students. So give me an example for assimilation, where consumers, meaning you, entering the new culture, abandon their culture of origin and followed, assimilated, or got assimilated into the new culture. Something that you are doing, something that you are consuming, which you initially did not want to or did not consume. But when you reach this country, you have started following that practice, following that product, or following that belief.
Well, in Nepal, we don't get beef, but here it's like plenty of beef meat everywhere. So I started, before I didn't consume beef, now after coming to Australia, I started.
Absolutely, yes. Maintenance, give me an example where aspect of both cultures are maintained. So you continue to lean upon some of the beliefs, some of the practices from your country of origin, and a few things you have acquired here. What is it that you have maintained? Say a blend of both. Any illustration? Anyone? This is the easiest one. Most of the time you do maintain some elements of your original culture and do imbibe something that is new that you learned here. So for example, what she said, so the food habit, though she acquired one more type of food, but there are several things that she must be consuming which she used to consume, right? Right? Resist, anything that you resisted, you saw happening in this culture, but you decided not to acquire that. Sorry? Bogans?
No, not drinking alcohol.
Okay, so if you did not used to drink and you continue to resist that, what else? Segregation. So do you see neighborhoods here? Means it's not very prominent thing in Australia, you know, but still you can see that the university locality, if you'll see, mostly student population, isn't it? So the neighborhood around the university, and there also, my guess is that you will like to cohort or like to cluster into the place from where you come from, more number of people from that same location, you try to cluster in the same building or maybe in the same road or wherever, you know, street, right? So that is segregation. Now, this is one other way of looking at culture. National culture means in the interconnected world, it's slightly difficult to, you know, and especially for big countries where there is a lot of, say, migrant population or countries which have got long history, you know, and they are huge countries, then national culture is becoming less and less prominent, but still people will say that there is something like the East and West, right? Within the Western world itself, there can be, you know, religious and spiritual cultural aspect of religion, ethnic and social. So social basically is relating to, say, demographic, consumer culture. Ethnic, when you talk about, it pertains to geography or geographical ethos, that is the ethnicity, right? So that cultural aspect will largely be rooted with geography, religious and spiritual culture. So culture, beliefs and norms that you follow because of religion, okay? And then final elements of each of these. Ethnic, so you may retain some of the indigenous culture, or there might be groups which are indigenous, aborigines and so on. Or there might be an Australian culture which which would have transformed because of incoming diverse kind of individuals and groups from different part of the world, and that you can name as such as an Australian culture, which is a blend of diverse communities and diverse nationalities. Fine. Social culture, if we'll talk about, we'll see in more detail consumer culture, age, generation, and idea of subculture depending upon these variables and so on. Now, let us learn a few more things. In a way, the sub-dimensions. Knowledge starts from knowledge, look at beliefs, values, and customs, and then in the next slide you will see again culture. Okay, so knowledge is nothing but basically facts and information that you have, okay? This is what is acceptable, this is not, right? These are the food types prominent in this geography. This is the kind of attire and dress acceptable here, right? So these are mostly, these are factual elements. Thereafter, when you start sharing this belief, what kind of food you should consume, when it becomes shared, this knowledge becomes shared, and a large group of people start following that, right? Or any thought that filters from that knowledge that this is how we should be. Our belief is belief in honesty, belief in kind of an integrated society, an all-encompassing belief system. The entire world is our family. So these are sort of, and then more deep-rooted than beliefs, which you strongly hold. You have studied in the last lecture also. Those beliefs that you strongly hold, that you don't want to give up on that, right? Those are your values. They are enduring. So belief might alter, modify, remodify. Values will not in the short run, okay? These are the enduring beliefs which you strongly hold and try to defend, right? So you will try to defend your national identity. You will not like to, or your religious belief, you will not like to, give up on that very quickly. Customs. So customs you can understand as, in an easy way, they are norms, but they are norms of practice. They are norms of activities. You do certain tasks, certain activities, say on a regular basis, and there might be religious customs, there might be social customs, and so on. But having said that, customs are a subset of culture. So if there is a hierarchy, customs and different customs are one aspect of a culture. A culture may have different types of customs. Fine? And culture will include beliefs, values, customs, your knowledge and know-how. Fine? So what you saw on the previous slide, in a way, everything taken together forms the culture and certain cultural practices. So barbecue, you can say that it is a cultural practice, or it is some kind of a custom also. Okay? And one is, what do you think this kind of food preparation involves, and why it is a custom or a culture, an element of a culture? I hope most of you must be exposed to, at least if you have first-hand, or you would have, it is so much part of Australia or US and several other Western societies, So what does it involve? Anyone? Socializing. So if you'll see factually it is nothing but slow cooking of food, right? If you take the information or fact-wise, it's basically slow cooking of food, right? Which gives you, but there is an element of festivity, there is an element of bringing a group together, family members, friends, and so on. It gives you opportunities to socialize. Why did it happen? So you will have to go back, and so anything that is cultural, anything which is deep-rooted into time, you will have to go back and see that probably there is a history as to how it might have happened. Choice of food is one. Again, as this practice goes on across geographies, the food type may vary. The food type may vary. The general ethos might be that you do not really do or engage alone. There will be an element of group or community. So it is also an opportunity in several societies which do not get sufficient amount of opportunity to mix up with or meet up, or there is no idea of an extended family, where it has become largely, individual or double income small families, then this is one occasion where they are able to come together, right? And then there is so much of, so many things will happen around it, okay? Now, movement of cultural meaning. What is movement of cultural meaning? So basically it says that there will be something called a regional, national, global, or a societal culture, right, or practice. How does it move from the culturally constituted world to an individual consumer? So this tells you one way. It is not the only way. So it is marketing focused. For example, there is a culturally constructed world or group, country, region. And because of that culture, the advertising, communication, messages are of particular type, around particular food types, around particular religion or particular celebration, right? So those marketing activities based on those culture will like to promote particular type of consumer goods and consumerism, right? And that in turn will lead to consumers trying to possess certain things, trying to exchange certain rituals, trying to groom themselves in a particular manner, or divestment rituals. So it says that the way you communicate, 4 or 5 types of rituals may emerge. Rituals around possession, ritual around exchange, around grooming, and around divestment, which in turn will shape your individual culture or individual belief. Okay, let me explain each one of this. Possession ritual. Possession ritual and divestment. In a way, the book treats both of them similarly. So possession or divestment, when you are, so an easy example might be, suppose you buy say a house which was, someone owned it before you bought, right? When you moved in, you will do certain changes based on how you want to see the interior decor as, or how you want the settings to be, or how you want to upkeep the garden and so on. You will do certain modification. Why are you doing those modifications? It's not simply about utility. It also speaks to your culture, your belief, how you want to see that house. You want to put a mark of your belief in that house and remove the mark of the past owner. Don't you do that? Many a times you will do it for simply convenience reason, utility reason, right? But many a times you want to make it more like you, right? That is the ritual of possession, divestment, exchange rituals, gifting, right? So the culture of gifting, you can gift to others. Many a times now companies are also promoting you gift yourself, right? So several products you like to gift yourself. What is your thought process? You want to gift yourself a particular type of product because you want yourself to show certain kind of behavior. For example, you have taken a gym membership, but you are not able to follow that with discipline. You decide to buy probably a machine for yourself, right? With the belief that if I invest, say, $5,000 in this machine, because I have invested, probably I'll do the exercise more diligently and it is more conveniently accessible to me at my home, right? So you gift yourself that expensive thing to bring in that self-discipline in a way, right? Yes or no? Fine. So, or gifting to others, you already know there might be several things. When you gift to others, it might be emotional, it might simply be a return or of some certain other type. Do a quick search on so anyone who knows what is hipster and what they represent and sorry, they represent love and peace in their own way. Yes. What else? So there will be website how to 10 ways to identify a hipster. So you can, they describe funny, interesting ways. But what are some attributes of hipsters? Anyone who would like to claim to be a hipster here?
In my mind, they seem always holding a coffee cup, especially a reusable cup, to show that they care about the environment, right?
Yes. And you may find out that they will not, so one of their attributes is also that they will not sit in the conventional coffee shop. They will find what they call a hole in the wall where no one visits, So they are unique. They would listen to music which probably you have not heard of, They have also an essence of, bragging. No, they think that they know it, but many a times it might not be a thing worth knowing, So these are some of the attributes of, and there are several things that you can, it has got its own history, practice, region, why these groups emerged, what they exhibit in the society, and so on, right? So forget about hipster. Do you see these kind of phenomena with whatever name, any related phenomena that you might be aware of? Yeah, related to, so this is one, they also represent one type of culture, of their, a microculture, a subculture within a particular locality or within a particular community or country. Right?
They bike a lot.
They bike a lot? Yes. So do you see such microculture or practitioners of such microculture? Are you aware of? Which comes to your mind? Yes, gypsies, why not? Yes. Okay, so culture systems, when you look at culture as a system, which it is, then there will be different elements of that system: ecology, social structure, ideology. So ecology part of the culture system is driven largely by physical, economic, political elements, right? That part of culture emerged or happened because of particular type of, why not, environmental factors, because of natural resources in a particular geography. The social structure, basically, at a finer level, it will be like division of roles. Who will do what, right? Nature of marriage, who can marry whom. Now the world is becoming much more diverse and much more open to different types. It's not only male and female marriage that we are talking of, right? But largely, even the prominent belief is how one get married and what kind of role in a family you follow, who does what, right? It might be changing, but you see that there is a social structure to things. What you can expect kids to do, what is not expected of them. Certain societies also give some norms as to when you can start drinking, if at all you can, right? So you will see that social structuring, some of it is imposed on you by the rules of the land, some of it is believed and norms. They are normative, they are prescribed, not by contract or rule, but that is what is expected of you. What does it do? So the social structure part of culture maintains social order. Otherwise, there will be a lot of confusion. So you arrive at home and you expect that there will be food. There is an order. You expect that there will be food as a 5-year-old or 10-year-old. You expect that there will be food because you think that your parents will do that cooking for you and you will get the food. Yes or no? What happens if it is not met? And so there will be confusion, there will be disorder, isn't it? So the social order is provided by the social structure part of culture. Ideology is the shared belief system. So economic ideologies, if you will see, or even social ideologies, like communism is one kind of ideology, or being a socialist world, or imagination of a socialist world. Egalitarian world is another ideology, right? Fine. So this is the third ingredient of a cultural system. You have seen it anywhere. Book, for some reason, it describes 5, but there are actually 6 dimensions of Hofstede cultural index. Have you studied it somewhere? So who will explain? What is the first one? Individual. So it's bipolar, individualism versus collectivism. What is it? Easy to explain. Tell me.
That's the extent to which culture values the individual versus valuing individuals as part of a collective.
And as an example, give an example.
U.S. is America is a very individualistic country versus somewhere like Japan is a very collectivist country.
Okay, example. Example of a practice.
Like superheroes. They like to idolize a superhero. But like in Asian cultures, we tend to be, behave, we hope to be the same with each other.
More like a team, a group.
Or it's like how in the US it's like more like a thing for children to move out of house after 18 age and take care of themselves. But in Asian countries, it's more likely to take care of each other.
Yes. So the number of years for which you stay in a family, right? It's an indication of how individualistic, They also value, sort of individual responsibility. Do not attach any value judgment that one is good and the other one, in absolute sense, there is nothing like one is good and one is bad. Both have pluses and minuses. So individualists will like to do things alone and take responsibility for it. They will not shy away from taking a blame as well as taking the credit. Right? Whereas collectivist group will be more comfortable with teamwork. Right? They believe in, and they are less comfortable with taking credit on their own alone for everything, right? And so on. Masculinity and femininity.
Like the German culture is more masculine because they worship power, and like most of the Asian countries, they are family because they are more caring.
More caring, very good. Nurturing, right? Feminist, nurturing, caring, and masculine means more power-centric, you know, more affinity towards having power and exercising hierarchy and so on. Okay? Power distance, easy.
It's about how easy people accept distance between the upper class and the lower class, like the work between boss and the employees.
Yeah, so it can be social. If it is social power, there can be a caste-based hierarchy. You know, if it is workplace, then you will also always have, you will always want to have a ladder of hierarchy, someone to be very supreme and someone at the lower end, you know. You derive sense of superiority and you like that, right? Whereas a more flatter organization, more equitable pay, everyone gets something, right? Uncertainty avoidance. What is uncertainty avoidance versus preference for uncertainty?
You wanted to have a very clear definition of your job or your responsibilities.
Yes.
Some others might be like group work. They're okay with clear regulations or
Absolutely, yes. So uncertainty avoidance, if you talk about new businesses, innovation, where will it happen more? Where uncertainty avoidance is high, the innovation will be high. True or false? If uncertainty avoidance is high, innovation will be high. True or false? False. False, right? If you avoid uncertainty, you will not like to move out of your comfort zone and think new and take risk, quit job and do something on your own, right? So the novelty will be less there. You want a permanent job, a secure job. You don't want to take risk. Fine? So you have to always keep in mind that if you are doing it from the consumer behavior and marketing point of view, so consumers who will be high on uncertainty avoidance, they will not like to try new products. Yes or no? They would like their friends to buy first, and then when their friends say that, okay, it is fine, it is working good, it's value for money, then probably they will go on and buy. Long-term orientation versus short-term orientation. Easy, self-explanatory. The sixth one is more restraint-oriented versus more kind of hedonic, more kind of gratification-seeking. That is the sixth dimension. Fine? So you have the description here. I think largely we are comfortable as a class. You want me to again do it? I'll take you through the details on the slide. If there is anything that you want me to explain once again, tell me. Any dimension which might not be clear to you? Individualism, masculinity, feminism, power distance, uncertainty avoidance, long-term orientation. China is a country with a long-term orientation. How many of you agree? Only one? 2, 3, 4. When you say it has got a long-term orientation, what do you mean?
like 10 years,
10 years plan? Plan for? So the action, suppose if one individual or one country is deciding on particular action, they will think of it as a 10 or 20 year or 30 year implication. What will be its implication, long-term implication? It might have some negative or some pain in the short run, but we don't care about that. We are more oriented towards what might be the implication going forward for the next generation, for the maybe aging society or whatever, but their intent is to look far in the future. Whereas certain countries might be, because of their condition, they might think, for example, where survival is like a challenge. You cannot have a very long-term orientation. You want your countrymen, citizen to first survive, right? So Maslow hierarchy, if you talk about at the individual level, you may have long-term orientation only when your basic needs are met. Yes or no? So you can study these, because Hofstede gave this. Hofstede is a man or a woman? Man? Sure? How do you know? So, of course, a man. Anyone knows from which country, which part of the world? This work is very famous. In management research, it is like one of the most researched and most used, very highly cited work. Positively, as well as a lot of critique is also available for Hofstede's cultural index. Anyone knows? Probably from Netherlands. You can check. At least he used to work at Netherlands. Most likely. Definitely Europe. Okay, culture norms and rules for behavior. Two types, learn two concepts here. Enacted norms, very easy. Enacted norms, what does it mean? What is this? This photo is of what? What is this photo? Traffic light, enacted norms. Now tell me, what is enacted norm? Traffic light are enacted norms. You cannot say red, I will go. At red, you have to stop. You also will stop, I will also stop. Yes or no? So both of us agree. Everyone has agreed that red means you cannot walk down. Right? And green means, okay, you can now start walking. Or driving. Right? So this is enacted, already enforced, explicit. Cursive, handed down from the past, that controls basic behavior as really norms. Expectations, customs, mores remember as moral kind of sentiments will be there. So morally this is what is expected of you. Conventions, conduct of everyday life. So in a way they are highly overlapping constructs. Mores, conventions, customs. Customs can have, customs can be in a way, several mores can be customs, and several conventions might be customs. Several customs and conventions may have moral overtones. Fine? But all the time, the underlying thing is that they are expectations of a good society or a particular society. At least at this point of time, they believe in this and they expect the members of that society to follow that. Okay? If you violate, the law may not come behind you, but people will start disliking you. They may throw you out of that group in some way. Right? You need a break? Or is it too early for a break? It's only 45 minutes. Should we skip as of now? 1 hour, 30 minutes. Myths. What are myths? How many of you have read Sherlock Holmes? And where does he stay? Which country and which street? Sherlock Holmes? No one knows the address. Sherlock Holmes, where does he stay? Robin Hood, real or a myth? Sorry? And he really stays there? You'll find his house? If you will find his house, then you will find Harry Potter's house also somewhere. So Robin Hood, Romeo Juliet, Sherlock Holmes, and your fables, stories, characters there, right? They are, many a times they are myth. With time, some of them can also become superstition. But always remember, as a new generation individual, before you start maybe disliking or ruling out certain myths, remember they always served some purpose. Myths also of certain types brought about social order, certain kind of allegiance to a belief, certain kind of behavior that was desirable, and therefore those stories, fables, myths emerged in the society. So they served a purpose. Fine? So they are symbolic elements. Stories, they bring social order, and they are psychological models, right? They form psychological models. And if there is some Romeo Juliet somewhere, there can be country-specific Romeo Juliets, their versions in every country. Do you all have in your own country? Yeah, we do. No? So it brings in certain kind of ethos, certain kind of belief, and certain kind of behavior. It motivates you in a certain manner, those stories. Fine? Any example of myth that you see people following, you may or may not believe in it yourself? Sorry?
Well, if it's defined as a myth, then why we can follow?
If it is defined as a myth, why they will follow? Do you think whatever happens in a movie is real? Why do you go and watch? Right? Okay, for fun. Not always only for fun. You also derive a lot of inspiration. There are movies which can give you profound management knowledge. Yes or no? So myth, your mind might be thinking, okay, it's not, Harry Potter is nothing real, right? Some author has created. But you will see that there are people who, they live that life. They will stand in the queue for hours to get the first edition, right, when the book used to get launched. Yes or no? They know that it is not real, but why do you do that? So that is the power of myth, or that is the power of that phenomena. It's not driven by cognition. It's more driven by affective reaction, emotional reaction. Any examples? Come on, give some interesting examples so that people do not forget. So your description of myth should reflect that there is an element of symbol, it brings social order, there must be some psychological model.
I think I have an example.
Please go ahead.
In Japan, is anyone from Japan here? No? Okay, so in Japan they had this myth with Motonai grandma, which means Motonai is like to avoid waste, and waste is bad. And then so they had this Motonai grandma that it was in a book, and I think they even had a TV series about it, and it was teaching children and people how to avoid waste. So then there was this myth, or myth would be the Motonai grandma that she would come and get you if you did bad, like wasted, do bad things like that. So and that's actually directly related to marketing because it was like driving people to reduce their overconsumption and waste.
Yes, I know that one.
You've heard that one before? Yeah. So
Good.
it's true, so it's a myth in that sense. But I don't know the historical origins of it, so I don't know. But I know it's quite widely held in Japan.
Several festivals and the celebration attached with the festival, maybe when they originated, it's doubtful whether the scientific region was known or not. But many of those things which have just been practiced, now there are several scientific evidences also. On a particular day, a particular type of celebration in a particular culture can be defended scientifically also, because the stars and the location of Earth and Moon is in a particular manner. You should not sleep, rather you should be awake and you should be in a particular posture. And if you are not going to keep people awake by making them drink all the time, then the only way to do that is probably make them celebrate and do something, right? Otherwise, in the night, how do you make people remain awake? So at times, it might be, say, a myth also, but many of those myths may also find some scientific basis. Okay? Rituals. So rituals, these are the, at times they can be religious practices, but they are expressive symbolic activity. And when you talk about rituals, so imagine any ritual of which you are part of, even if it is religious. So there will be an element of artifact. What is the artifact? Every ritual will have certain objects, right? Objects means, if you are, even say, if you think of celebrating Christmas or celebrating a birthday, you will have to gather some material objects, yes or no? Certain products, certain things you will have to gather for food, for gift, and so on and so forth. They are the object. There is a script. Script means there is a process. How that ritual has to be conducted. Will it be conducted by a person at home? Who that person will be? Will some priest conduct it? Will someone else will so there is a script, meaning there are step-by-step things of how those objects should be used, what should be the process, when will be the food begin, when will be the celebration begin, and so on, right? So objects, script, that is the process. Third, there is the person involved who will conduct it. Maybe a group, maybe an individual, maybe the head of the family, maybe women members in the family, maybe married couples, they can only do certain elements of the ritual. And lastly, audience. So if it is a marriage, only 2 people are getting married, right? Everyone else is an audience. Yes or no? Right? So remember, rituals in that sense, they are expressive, symbolic, and activity. They are rituals and they have 4 ingredients: object, script, person or people, and audience. Fine? What is a grooming ritual?
Even how you wash your hair.
Yes?
You do it in a certain way, the way you put the bottles back, the way that you start maybe at the front of your hair, and the way you rinse it out. I think that's
Yeah, but you have to do a minor kind of improvement to that. So grooming ritual here, at least as per your book, will be when you are moving from your private to the social, or from a private to a public space. You would like to groom yourself. So that movement should be from private to a public space. And then you think that, okay, I can stay in a particular manner in the private space or when I am all on myself, but when you are moving out in the public space, so everything that you do preparing yourself for that shift is a grooming ritual, right? Fine. And you know marketeers, how they are using it with all the products and all the grooming kits and all the cosmetics and so on. Possession rituals I have already described. Gift giving rituals, self gifts, holiday rituals. So they are part of several societies where you need to take break. You cannot just keep working all the time, and holidays are also, they have economic relevance. They also have family level well-being relevance. You go out usually with friends and family and so on, right? And all that will take care of economically. If you'll see destination wedding or place tourism and so on, they have all evolved around these things of holiday as a ritual, right? And in each of these, you will see that most of the time you will have those four ingredients. There will be an object. Even if you are thinking of grooming, there will be an object, there will be a script in which you apply the cosmetics, and there will be a person, maybe you yourself or some expert you will bring in to groom you. And then there will be an audience. Maybe you expect that I'm not going in vacuum, I'm going out, and there I'll meet a few people, right? With every other elements also. Rites of passage, and what is it? Anyone? Yeah. Any other example, rites of passage? So basically, it has been defined in different culture, different rites of passages, different occasions in your life are marked by certain events and activities. At times they are age bound. So anyone from has a different example. Maybe at 18 or at certain age you get a right to maybe say in a way a right to, you can drive, you can drink, and not both together, of course. Any other rites of passage that you are aware of? Sorry? Bachelor parties? Yes, why not? Yes. In several cultures, you also have, so marriage, or before marriage, then marriage, and then family, and then probably you are expected to, go out, leave the world and, be on your own again. And so they are also more philosophical rites of passage. But otherwise, whatever you celebrate, maybe at 10 or 12 years, then maybe 24 years, maybe 36 years, or maybe 18 years, and there will be a celebration, there will be some rites given to you, and there will be some rituals. Those rites and rituals will happen, right, and so on. Let's see this video.
Facial hair may be all the rage in the West, but most Taiwanese men still prefer the clean-shaven look. There's nothing wrong with that, unless you're promoting Philips grooming kits. In which case you have to ask, how do you interest the hairless in the art of facial hair? First, proprietary AR technology had to be developed to achieve a more natural effect. A compound material with solid yet light conducting properties was molded to contain a translucent liquid and imprinted with a dozen male facial hair patterns. With the device ready, it was time for deployment at carefully chosen spots where Taiwanese men would be highly receptive to suggestions about their looks. Trained hairstylists then subtly introduced the Philips trimmer, but this was only a teaser to arouse their curiosity. When the salon beverage was brought in, that was the time for our AR technology, and the transformation was instant. From reality to augmented reality. Watch it again. Here's reality, and here it is, augmented. No apps, no downloads, no wireless 3G networks involved. Just good old-fashioned, low-cost, fail-proof ink and mirrors. When a target expressed interest, live customer support was right behind him. And the deal was closed by a promotional offer on Philips grooming products right in front of his eyes. Thank you, augmented reality technology. Thank you.
Let's do this one. See if the exercise is clear. Okay, are we ready? All set? Who would like to share first? Which group?
Let's start with this group. I had some. Can your team share what you had, what we talked about?
We have discussed the local celebration in Canton because my hometown is in the south part of China, and the celebration is associated with the with Spring Festival, but it's kind of local flower market, and so it. So it's a very interesting and funny, and lots of local people will attend that market and to just like hang out with some friends or family members and buying some flower, just like this. So yeah.
Country specific, like a culture specific.
Yeah, in that region, yeah.
And so you said flowers was a particular product? That you
Yes, yeah.
Awesome. I have the other group over here are talking about a different type of product that they associated with the Spring Festival. So wheat dumplings and stuff. So what other products do you associate with the Spring Festival? So your
dumplings.
dumplings.
Yeah.
Yes?
In North,
Is that the same or different to what other places might do?
in north of China, they usually serve dumplings at in spring or spring festival, but in south part of China, they eat other thing else. Yeah.
Do you guys, and this team over here, they also talked about Spring Festival, and then we'll talk about different celebrations. So what were the products that you associated with Spring Festival?
We will buy many red envelopes in which we'll put some money in, and usually it's the elderly people give the younger children. And also we will buy the firecrackers, and usually Chinese people will stay at home and have family reunion, share the dinner, and watch the Spring Festival Gala on TV. That's it.
Okay, so if you can share, means the red envelope and gifting the money, does it have any other association? Means what is the purpose, or why elders give to younger, and do you have any more ideas of? So it's a ritual, right? So what is the belief when elders are giving money? It's not simply passing on money. There must be some belief associated with it. Do you have any idea about that?
Why
The reason why the elderly people give younger children money is that they wish because the red color is a very it represent lucky and fortune. So if we give red envelopes to other people, then that means we wish they have a lucky year.
Okay, good. And for the first group, so when you talk about people buying flowers and giving, so who gives to whom, and why only flower, or is there any kind of?
Who gives to whom the flowers? What's the cultural association with the market?
Yes, just family bonds. Yeah, because I just
So are they
went to the
specific
market.
type of flower, or is it a bouquet, or is it?
Yeah, just like a whole family went to the flower market together and buy the flower. Yeah, bought the flower together and back home. Yeah, but I have nothing special meaning. Yeah, just like the family bonds. Yeah.
Yeah. So the reason we ask is like Valentine's, where roses represent, you know, that expression of love. So that's sort of a cultural element. We have an example here of the Thanksgiving and how it's related to the Canadian culture.
Yeah. So I talked about Canadian Thanksgiving, which is a little bit different from American Thanksgiving because it's in a different month. But it's a very cultural thing. There's what were we talking about? Social structure, yeah. Couldn't remember the exact term. So it's usually that like the most senior person in the family or like the oldest is the one who hosts Thanksgiving dinner. So like you usually have Thanksgiving dinner at like your parents' house or your grandparents' house. And then even within the people that are hosting the Thanksgiving dinner, there's very specific roles that each person takes. Like the mother or the grandmother is always the one who cooks the turkey, and then the father or the grandfather is always the one who cuts the turkey. And the particular product associated is definitely a turkey. Yeah.
So could you tell us more about even how marketers probably use this Thanksgiving to market turkey and turkey relevant paraphernalia?
So are there gifts involved, and is there any tradition of gifting?
So there's no like gifts involved, but yeah, there is. There's a lot of food marketing that goes around it because there's certain food items that you eat at Thanksgiving that you don't usually eat at any other time of the year. Like cranberry sauce is a thing that a lot of people put on their turkey, and I don't know of anyone else who eats cranberry sauce on anything else at any other time of year.
Especially with savory stuff.
But exactly, especially on meat. But on Thanksgiving, like thousands and thousands and thousands, if not millions of people put cranberry sauce on turkey. So suddenly, the 2 weeks leading up to Thanksgiving, grocery store shelves are just full of cranberry sauce. And then it disappears for the next year until Thanksgiving hits again. It sounds so weird to say it out loud.
Good.
Okay, so recently I visited my family, and then my sister organized a birthday party. So definitely the product will be birthday cake. And then it turned out to be a real revealing party. She was telling the whole family that she was pregnant. So it's kind of like everybody was in shock. So it's a very meaningful kind of birthday, this year for her and for the whole family, because she's gonna be the first grandbaby in my family. Yeah, so that's my recent experience.
Thank you.
So how do other people, maybe say elders and younger, how do they take this news differently? Or is there any cultural association with announcement of pregnancy?
I think the grandparents side, like from my brother-in-law and from my mom, I think they were kind of like in shock. So they didn't know how to react until we...
And they were pleasantly shocked, I assume.
Yeah, like we got the idea instantly, but they were like, what? Like for the whole party? So I think it's, I don't know how to put it, like maybe it's different for generations. Yeah, how we take the...
So traditionally what was done, was it like in private you would go and speak
Absolutely.
to your grandparents, or what traditionally would normally happen instead of a birthday reveal cake, which seems very westernized?
Oh, yeah. Because I think my sister is married to an Australian guy, so I think maybe they try to combine the West and the East. Okay. Yeah, so that's really interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Thank you.
Any other group?
I would like to share a fun celebration in China. It's called Double 11 Single Day. Double 11 single day. So the initial inspiration for this celebration is for the singles or single people who don't have their girlfriend or boyfriend at the day. Yeah. Yeah, so they normally they go online and purchase something for themselves. And yeah, nowadays it's really getting popular in this whole country, in the nation, and people just, no matter have girlfriend or boyfriend or not, or single or not, they just purchase everything they want at the exact day, like 11th of November.
And do they announce it that they have done some purchase, or do they post it over social media, or?
Oh, yeah, I think they do, yeah. And it's like,
what might be their motivation to announce? That they
it's
have
like,
self-gifted?
spend so much money there. Like,
It's just to show them that they're single.
That's all?
oh, maybe, yeah. And yeah, so, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting that
Probably turn into like
yeah, like because it's from China, right? And then the news was all over in Taiwan, like it's huge. So I think maybe they try to sweep the consumer behavior to thinking that it's not wrong to be single. You know, it's like a celebration for single people. So it's not. Yeah, I'm proud of being single. So I think that's a very good association to being single with the, purchasing habits.
I do that
See,
for
marketeers
Valentine's.
always would like to project everything in a positive light, whether it is for couples, so there is a Valentine's Day, or if it is single, then there is a singles day, and so that is their job, so they would like to present it. But when the singles are self-gifting, what is their motivation?
What's their motivation?
You had an example.
Self-love.
Afia? Okay, we have a candidate there.
Yeah.
We'll come to you.
Okay. Yeah.
It's working. It is.
So I just want to continue their topic about the romantic expense. Actually, at past, people all think Eastern people are not so romantic. We are too shy to show our real emotion to the partner or people who love. But I don't know if it's kind of backlash recent years. People pay more and more money and attention on how to show my love to my partners. Firstly is the Valentine's Day. All young people want to find a partner, even he is so good at the single situation, but they also want to find a partner of the, in that day, if you are single, it would be kind of shame. And for the business reason, more and more festivals are be regarded as a kind of continuation of Valentine's Day. The Nation's Day, the Middle Moon's Day, the Spring Festival, and now I think all except Qingming, all festival can be regarded as Valentine's Day. People will spend so much money in the hotel at that days, are all for the reserved, and the price of rose will rise again and again, as maybe 10 times as it usually be, and the gift, for example, the lipstick, sold out everywhere, sold out. It's amazing. It's so easy to earn money at the romantic days. God, what a pity of man.
That's so true. You can't even find a restaurant.
I highly appreciate your concern. Good, very good.
Mine's not so interesting as that one. But when we're talking about Spring Festival, maybe think about Brisbane's version of Spring Festival, which could be Brisbane Festival and River Fire. And what people do, they they camp out and mark a spot along the Brisbane River all day just for fireworks at 7:30 at night. And we have like fighter planes fly over, usually before the fireworks or even earlier that day or the day before to sort of test the route. And I think that is so bizarre. Like it works for here and it's part of the culture of Brisbane Festival and River Fire, but Australia is such a multicultural country. I feel like there'd be so many people that would be actually in terror hearing these planes go over. And I think that it's interesting that we use this as a celebration, but for other people, it's actually really serious. So I think that's a really interesting cultural use of those kind of planes. Yeah.
Good. Fireworks, culturally, they have different purposes and different meanings, light, sound, fun, and so on. But yeah, and also increasing environmental concern these days. Okay, wonderful. So just keep in mind, maybe, or going forward, so all these, whatever celebration you can think of, you will be able to hopefully see more of, there will be an elaborate ritual, certain customs, conventions along those, and you will start observing closely. You will see that every small things that you do in those festivities, there are a lot of complex meaning attached to it. So maybe you become more cognizant to that fact. Now, so culture has got, of course, a strong bearing. The way you have individuals have personality, culture is considered as the personality of a society. Okay? And from that point of view, at an individual consumer level also, culture affects consumption. And you will be now not much surprised to know that consumption itself is a big kind of that there is something called a consumption culture. What you consume, that in a way is becoming so therefore consumption has been categorized as sacred and profane. This classification was given very recently by a qualitative researcher called Russell Belk. So sacred consumption, when the consumption object has got some more than utility meaning, it creates some awe and it is special. Fine. It might be a turkey or it might be gifting flower, but it's not simply, at least for that day, it's not simply just meat or just a bouquet of flower. It acquires much bigger a meaning for those occasions, in those consumption situations. Similarly, taken from another point of view, brands, when there are several brands that might be, at the end of the day, they are a bike or a car. But for some people, you will see that it becomes a religion. It becomes a sacred object, right? From that point of view, let us understand the second one. Profane basically is the utilitarian or simple object, a day-to-day consumption. That is what profane consumption means, ordinary. Sacralization and objectification, both are related in a way. So look at it closely. When the objects or events take sacred meaning, otherwise they are individuals, they are people, they are place, they are object, like you and me. But because of certain regions, they have taken sacred meaning. They became, over a period of time, celebrity. Say, any individual whom you know as sacralized, sacred in our society? Any example? No? Mother Teresa? Pope? Religious gurus, whomsoever you believe in, right? Kings and queen, princess and prince, why not? Objectification is, otherwise the object is mundane, simple, day to day, right? But because it got associated with a sacred occasion, a sacred, say, a personality or an artifact, and then it acquired a special meaning. What is contamination then? So when they became sacred. So the object, initially it was like day-to-day use object, but over a period of time, it became sacred in its own right, right? Because of the meaning that was given to it, it was as such, it was not sacred to start with, but over a period of time, those objects themselves became, say, an artifact of worship, okay? Desacralization. So basically here, it's a sacred object, otherwise. It's a prominent figure, prominent object, prominent artifact, right? For example, a cross, it has got holy significance, right? But in many places, many geographies, many market, it will be sold as a common kind of, maybe as an object. It really does not have, people are buying and people are displaying or showing it as a showpiece. They don't have any, they might not be also aware of its religious beliefs and sentiments attached to it or its relevance, right? That is called desacralization. They have become just like other commodities, at best some kind of artifact for the living room and so on. In those markets, those societies, they do not have that sacred association. Do you see these different elements in your own life experiences? So in many markets we have seen, so Chinese letters and alphabets, or if you can call them alphabets, they will be sold. People don't understand that, they don't really understand that letter, or they don't understand, but they might use it as a pendant. They might use it as a showpiece. So that to that object, they don't have any meaning, but it looks good to them. It's of, say, visual impression, or visual effect is there, and that is why it is being sold and purchased, and it is being marketed and consumed and produced. Okay? Any first-hand experience with these things?
The Turkish symbol, the lucky symbol kind of graphs, not the eyes or Greeks.
That swastik? Yeah, so for many people, it may not have the religious meaning. Yes? Any other example? Okay. Subcultures, there are different types of subcultures, but the subcultures that emerge can be because of two reasons. One is demographic regions, because of age, because of geography, because of, say, income, some kind of subcultures might emerge. Of course, because they started behaving in a particular manner, because of their age, when they were born, in which maybe part of the century they were born, what is it that they associate with, and those sub-communities along age, income, etc., form subculture because they start practicing or behaving in a particular manner, right? They are still part of a broader culture, but they create a culture of their own, right? There can be consumption communities, the kind of products they consume, their language, the way they spend their time, right? Because by virtue of the consumption and its nature, right, there are consumption communities and therefore consumption subcultures. If you take age as a driver of creating subcultures, so you will associate with some group here, right? So depending upon when you were born, in the book you have figure or table 9.1 which will describe some of the attributes. So if individuals born in this, say our parents, or here, or maybe here, like students like you, they will be consuming certain kind of products. They will be, when they are meeting friends and they are talking and they are, so you will not realize, but it happens that you follow a certain kind of own linguistic style, language, all this WhatsApp and messaging. It's not, you really don't write an essay. It's not an academic text that you are writing on WhatsApp. Or so you created your own shortcuts and language that probably that group understands. So you think this is a shared thing that is going on. The language is evolving, and you will be surprised that many a time new words are coming out of it. Have you heard of a word like chillax? Funny, right? So, and in a way, it conveys a meaning, right? And it's precise, It's precise, it conveys a meaning, and people share, and it immediately have an effect. I'm chillaxing, you know. And similarly, you know, you look at your own WhatsApp messages. If you look at it very carefully, you will see that there is a style that you have started following in that kind of writing, okay? Or the kind of products that you consume, the way you talk about product. At times it might be informative, at times it might be just to impress the other person, at times it is show off, right? The kinds of product you like, of course, regional, ethnic, and religious subcultures. Maybe, you know, the example is that of a particular origin of a particular tea type or coffee type or any other beverage you take, it's related, or maybe, you know, halal used to be, if you know the genesis, largely it used to be a particular situation or a food type, but it also, at a broader level, it also indicates something else, that is, say, purity, right? So otherwise, these products do not have any that kind of association, but it also started signifying purity, okay? So coming from a particular region, ethnic or religious subculture, the way products or consumerism evolve, that is again forms one particular type of subculture. If you take consumption-based subculture, there are three types. Based on lifestyle, the book gives an example of Harley Davidson. It's not really a great example of subculture of consumption. Means it's more fitting into a brand community. After all, Harley Davidson, if you take, it's a cult brand, and it's a fitting example for brand community, where those communities will have their own, you know, you can say that they are a religion in themselves. But anyways, if you take lifestyle-wise, say veganism is becoming a popular thing these days, right? What is it? Any vegans here? No? So tell us more about it. What it is, what do you believe in? What kind of, is it only about food?
I've heard about producing beef can release more CO2 than other kind of meats. So I feel like, I should consume less beef. And then I realized, if that's what beef's happening, how about chicken? What about everything else? Probably the same. So I try to make a probably veggie Monday or Tuesday. Try to eat less. And I believe by doing so, I feel great, and I think that I have consumed less to help.
Yeah. So one is the kind of food that you consume. So this is one, she's more balanced vegan, you will say. So those who are very stringent followers, they have a feel. It's not only about food that of course they will not consume meat, but anything that they think is more stressful to the environment in general or life in general, they try to avoid, you know. So they have a clear hierarchy. Of course, means, say, meat produce, you can take it, you know, take some scientific evidence there. It's a huge drain to our environment, because you are asking an animal to consume first a lot of protein, a lot of which goes waste, and then you are consuming that protein. So its overall impact on environment is very drastic and very disadvantageous in that way, apart from the other implications on health, etc. But anyways, so here it's about the kind of food as well as their kind of belief, and therefore they will share a kind of life philosophy, right? And a kind of lifestyle. Brand community, so as I said, they form a group, they form a cult, they start, you know, using the core product as well as accessories associated with it and so on. Consumer tribes, if you will think of, any consumer tribes that you are aware of. So the way you have general in-life tribes and groups, right? So any group that you see, so a good group, an ideal group should be, what should be an ideal definition of a group? The sum of individuals, the group contribution should exceed the individual sums. Otherwise, there is no point forming a group, right? If individually you contribute X and there are 5 members, the expectation is that you should be able to create something more than 5X. You know, and that comes from, for example, all 5 of you may have an idea. But if you are just thinking about the idea in a closed room, you may reach somewhere, of course. But when you think of it as a group, what happens is what you call as bouncing of ideas, bounding and rebounding. And then when you discuss with individuals, talk about it, what is called as linking value. By sharing your views, someone opposing that view, many a times we feel offended when someone opposes our view. But when our views are opposed, our minds start thinking. We try to, we might get defensive, other might be, we might get creative. Right? So that challenge creates novelty and exciting ideas. That is the benefit of being in a group. You get that linking value, right? So similarly, tribes, when they are that group, they create that linking value, and if it is consumption of a product, everyone consuming a product in isolation and then consuming it in a group. Why do you party? It's not simply about consuming a product. You party because there is a group, and you enjoy that presence of other people whom you like. Yes or no? Right? It's not about just consuming 5 different products. You can do it in isolation, but you will not get that pleasure, because that tribe, that group, gives that linking value. Any questions? We still have good amount of time before we move on to discussing some bit about the exams. Any questions, what we have discussed? Okay. So do look at, I assume that there must be some description about the exam, the factual elements, for example, the duration and so on. If not already present on Blackboard as part of your outline, it will definitely be posted. But I'm sure as part of the ECP, it should already be there. So just take a look at it. Some other details that might interest you. Of course, be careful and be aware of where the exam is happening, and which day and what time, which will be, of course, disclosed to you going forward. There will be 5 questions in the exam. You have to answer 4. Okay? 1 to 1.5 page is what is expected. One good way to prepare is, anything that I'm going to say in the next half an hour or so, it's just guiding principles, guidelines. Don't take me to that word, okay? So these FAQs have been shared lecture-wise with you all. So by the time you have revised that lecture, you should be comfortable with those questions. And if you are comfortable, it means you understood the lecture well, and you are relatively well prepared for your exam. So FAQs are one good way to prepare. Of course, apart from that, but if you have doubt, discuss with whomsoever you want, and your group members, and read the books and so on. And concept-wise, course lectures and book should be sufficient. Now, when you are developing the answer in the exam, I would personally suggest that you should, first of all, give 1 minute to read the question very carefully. In each question, there will be subparts. There will be no single question which has got no subparts. So therefore, make sure, and one good way is to keep underlining once you have answered a subpart. So if there are 3 subparts, and within a subpart there are 2 things being asked, you should make sure that within that subpart you answer both the things. And one way to keep track of it is go on underlining only that portion of the question which you have already answered on the answer script, okay? So that you do not miss any of the subcomponents of the question. That is one. Read carefully and answer what is being asked many a times, because by the time you are preparing for your exam, you are so obsessed with and so into the preparation, and you have a lot of things going on in your mind. Many a times what happens is, irrespective of what is being asked, you tend to write what you know. You will not get marks for that. You have to write what is being asked. Read the question carefully, understand, and answer to the question, okay? Most of the times what you should do is always think of, for each question there will be an associated theory, right? One good way to anchor yourself is to first of all quickly remember what theory it explicitly the question might say, at times it may not say, right? If it is explicitly not saying a theory, it is a good idea still to anchor your thought that this thing can be answered based on what theory. Write that theory in the margin. That will help you organize your thought, because you have already anchored into that theory, and then go on answering the subcomponents. In several questions, the theory might be explicitly mentioned. The question that I'm going to show on the next slide. The theory is given to you, okay? And then, of course, you go and answer as per that theory. It is a good practice, because these are qualitative and 1.5 page, and once we set the expectation, 1.5 page, and some of you, of course, would like to answer more. What you do is you decrease the font. You start writing very small, microscopic, you know. So remember, someone has to read the answer and mark you. So make their life easy by underlining the important points. One, you do that. Second, by underlining an important point, you are bringing in good commitment, and you are showing that you exactly know what is important in that answer, which of course any marker will appreciate and also in some way reward, because they know that you have not just given up a broad, vague kind of thing. You exactly know what are the important things here, and the chances that you will get rewarded for it is high. Now look at this specific question. So all the questions will be of 10 marks each. Again, I'm repeating, you just have to answer 4 and only 4 questions, right? If by mistake you answered 5, I will suggest that take a call, which one is the weakest one, cross it. Otherwise, the marker has got all the right to only mark first 4. Irrespective of the fifth answer being the best one, you don't get any marks out of it. So if you have by mistake answered 5, at the end take a call, you just indicate which 4 you want to be evaluated and cross the other one. And of course, you should not make that mistake. Invest your time in answering 4 questions. Do you all remember this? Bells are ringing or not? Which chapter, which question, or which concept? Anyone can make a guess as to which question which chapter it was at least? Means chapter 6, but what was the... Sufficient cue is available there itself. How many of us are comfortable with this question? Raise your hand. Come on, you need to be more confident. See, I also don't like, for this very reason, I also don't like exam. It makes you all so serious. What is this? It's not happening right now. It's a few weeks later. Just do your best. You just have to revise things once. Don't make it a stressful journey. You all have attended the class. You have the lecture recordings. You have the lecture slide. What is it that you are afraid of? Comfortable? You can answer if this is the question in the exam, suppose. You can answer it? Good. So, I'll tell you, suppose this is the question, then what background knowledge you need to know? The answer to each of these subpart is there, but I will not give point by answer. I'll just give you the overall concept. So when you see this question, these slides, this knowledge should come to your mind. There is where the answer lies. So first of all, defining attitude. So you should have an idea of what attitude is and some of the prominent attitude theory, right? The question tells you clearly that rely on one attitude theory. Fine. If you know, so one good way is when you are preparing for your exam, many a times in this course specifically, many phenomena can be explained through multiple theories, right? So what you should do as part of the preparation is, first of all, have very clear, crisp understanding of each theory. Your mind should not be confused about the essence of the theory. And one good way is write the name of the theory and write your own 2-line definition of what that theory is. If you do that, Rest everything is story. You can build stories around it using examples. But you should have very clear understanding in your mind that this is a theory and this is how it is defined. This is what it explains. Theory is always an explanation. So attitude theory, some expectancy theory, this is what it explains. Okay, let's see. So there are three components to attitude. Easy: cognition, affect, and connection. Cognition, emotion, and behavior, whatever term you use. There are three components, right? So much text on the slide. Cognition, you define yourself. Cognition means something related to fact and information. Affect, something related to emotion. Connection, something related to behavior, action. That's all, right? That is how you try to remember these things, and maybe one example for each. If you know an example for each, the thing is that that idea will sink into your mind. You will be more clear, right? Therefore, you should know one example. One way of seeing things, which you can use solely, if you ask me, I can just use one element of this and answer the question. Okay? Choose one of these. Which one is relevant is for you to decide. So for that, you have to have an idea of that context, and then see, if I sequence behavior, cognition, and affect, is it the right sequence to explain that? Or is it cognition, affect, behavior? Or is it the third one? These are the combination that it's given here, right? Hierarchy of effect is nothing but the combination of the previous three things that you saw, isn't it? So each of these three theoretical viewpoints, do you remember? They are in a way three, but if you have not, if you have paid attention, they have an undercurrent. They have a commonality. If you carefully see that, you will get it. First one, if you say Heather's balance theory, it's nothing different from. It also tries to remove inconsistency in what you saw in the last slide. My thinking, that is cognition, my emotion, and my behavior, there should be an alignment in it. I have already told you in some previous class, I cannot have very good information about this product, and then I cannot dislike it. If I dislike it, I will not go buy it, right? I know good about this product, I'm emotionally attached to it, and then only I'll buy. So there is a consistency between these three elements, right? And if there is a gap in that consistency, then there is a dissonance, which human beings try to minimize. They minimize by, this one is saying you that you try to achieve that consistency, either by going and changing your information about this product. You might be having wrong information about the product. Or you go and say that, no, the information is right, I should think negatively about this product. And because I'm thinking negatively, I should not buy it. Or at least I should suggest my friend not to buy it, right? Even if you have bought, you will spread negative words if you don't like it. You are expressing your dissonance, trying to align those three elements, okay? This is another way of looking at things. This will not help you answer the question. But if you want to set up an impressive answer, then you will say that this situation that you are seeing, this context of this question, is not utilitarian. It might be ego defensive. It might be value expressive. These are the two places where I'll put my bet. And during your answer, if you place something like this, you are expressing to your marker that you have a good grounding of what is going on, right? Fine? So I don't need to explain these terms, right? All of you know this. Utilitarian, ego defense, value expressive, and knowledge. Anyone wants me to explain any one of these? If you are not clear, tell me now. At least you have one more chance to know it. You all are clear with these four terms? Don't wait for your friend to ask. If you are not clear, tell me. Ego defense, what is ego defense? Tell me. What is ego defense? Come on. For example, deodorants, grooming products, which help protect your self-esteem. It will not give you status. It will not boost your self-esteem. That will come from value-expressive products, right? One way is, so multi-attribute model, if you will see this one, versus subsequent one, if you take Eisen's model, Fishbein's model, right? All of them have this same element. The element is belief that the behavior leads to certain outcome and evaluation of the outcome. It can be based on your knowledge of the attributes, right? You are knowing certain attributes of a product. Those attributes are impressive, right? Good display, good memory, good speed, good price. These are the attributes of the product, right? Because of which you will form certain beliefs. Then probably you will get some evaluation. You will start thinking positively about it. And then you will show an attitude. Let me try, buy it. You buy, this phone disappoints you. You go and revise your initial understanding of the attribute. When it failed your expectation, you go and revise, which is again, if you'll see, it is talking to cognition, affect, and behavior, right? But here the focus is you are doing an attribute-based assessment, setting up certain expectation, showing a behavior, getting an outcome, modifying your expectation. That is what is going on here, right? Same thing, absolutely same thing that I said here is happening, okay? Or if you will see this one, the ultimate theory of planned behavior. So theory of planned behavior tells you there is an attitude towards the behavior, there is a subjective norm, and there is a perceived behavioral control. There are three elements. These three elements will set up the intention to buy or not buy a product, right? Attitude towards the behavior, healthy or not healthy. Subjective norms, some kind of beliefs that you carry. And then perceived behavioral control, you know, maybe instant gratification or long-term orientation, something of that sort. These three things set up the intention, which will set up the behavior to buy or not buy, right? And once you have this, then evaluation will start again. Once you have we showed the behavior, bought the product, started using it, right? Once you started using, these three things will get modified. Once they get modified based on this use, then you will express new intention, either to rebuy or not to buy. Got it? So largely everything that you need to answer that specific question was here, slightly more than what was required. You as a thoughtful student will be expected that what exactly is needed out of this information, which one I should choose, which one answers the question best. You will have to make that judgment and write your answer in 1.5 page. Yes?
You know how the question was like subdivided, but do you expect us to answer like that? Or
Yes.
like the whole
No, you should answer it A, B, C.
in different pages?
I don't think answering it in different pages, unless there is a strict guideline to that. Why waste page? You write A, and then once you are done, maybe B, and then C.
Like how you have like suggested us to like write 1.5 pages.
No, so it's 1.5 page is, I think, is for the one question. Okay? All together. I don't think that it is for one subpart. But let me.
Just make sure that you read the instructions in the perusal time.
Okay, now that you have raised it, I'm 99% sure it is for all subparts taken together. If it is not, we will get back to you. You know, but it is. You are not expected to answer 1.5 page for each subpart. No.
Oh no, that is for the
Yeah, for the entire question, it is 1.5 page. Any other question? Except asking the question of the exam, ask anything that you have in mind. Sorry? Okay, so basically we're asking whether it is an open book exam or closed book, is it?
No, it's closed. I'm pretty sure it's closed. Closed. Yeah, no books. It's in the final exam room, so.
It's a closed book exam.
You can bring a dictionary. You can bring a translation.
But when you say cheat sheet, basically it means some notes, right? Okay, Alex, why don't we just write it? Okay, so as of now, no. If it is yes, we'll get back to you. Okay? Any other question? If you have any doubt, please raise these questions. We will try to answer it as quickly as possible. Any other doubts from you all about the exam? Yeah, you don't have 11 lectures because some of those lectures were about your project and all. But yeah, what we have covered in class lectures and book.
So one question that I got was, is it only for the lectures after the mid-semester?
No, it's for the entire course. It's for the entire course.
The only past year paper that we have done is from 2015. So is there any more example?
Okay, so if there is a possibility to make available some more sample exam papers, we'll do that.
The past exam papers are on the library website. So
But she's saying that it's only for 1 year that is available. Let me check it out, and if there are more years exam paper available, we'll pass it on to you. Anything else? Any other question? You have good amount of time, so what I would say is start revising. If you have any doubt, reach out to us. We have consultations are still available. Make use of it. Discuss amongst yourself. Listen to the recordings. If you are still stuck somewhere, reach out to us. Okay, are we comfortable then? Okay, good luck for the presentation then. And if some of you, I'll be staying back for a few minutes. If you want to talk about anything, it's okay with me. Yes.
Each question has one example.
Each question has?